All of those books behind you, have you read all of those books? Are these all yours?
These aren't even mine.
Oh, fake book setup?
I'm really good at fake tennis. And I got a really good workout from it.
I mean, I got Shaquille O'Neal's autograph.
Hi Audrey, how are you doing?
Hi, Jessica, how are you?
I'm really well, thank you. I'm keeping well.
I really am into your whole Zoom setup and your outfit. It's super adorable.
Thank you. It's actually, I'm really hot.
Oh no.
Yeah, but I'm keeping quite cool in here. It's good.
Well, you look cute. So I had the chance to screen 6 episodes of Brave New World, and I'm so engrossed in that whole utopia paradise world. Maybe not a paradise, we'll see. But a couple of things struck me right away. In this series, you get to have like cool modern hair. Like you've had so many crazy curls and updos and poofs.
Yeah.
Has that been enjoyable?
I mean, definitely. I mean, first of all, it was a really interesting experience, actually, because the moment we started talking about how she was going to look, we all thought she has red hair. We wanted this kind of inner fire that she has, that's even present at the beginning, to be part of her kind of identity. That it's sort of so unquashable in her that even her hair is kind of on fire. And so that was great. That was a really cool thing. I mean, they had to try and straighten this, which doesn't often like to cooperate. So there was a lot of hairspray involved. But I mean, yeah, there's always something going on. It's very sleek and cool. And quite often at the end of each week we were filming in Wales for the majority of it. And I'd jump on the train and come home, and I was always like, look at my hair at like midnight when I got home, just always wanting to keep it in.
There's a scene that was really amazing to me when you put on someone's headphones and there's a Neil Young song that plays, Natural Beauty, which is such an amazing song. So just wondering if that's your type of music.
Neil Young is actually one of my all-time favorite people ever. When we filmed that scene, we didn't know what song it was going to be yet, so it was done to silence. And then when I was told what song it was, I couldn't believe it. Neil Young really, really brings me straight home. It really connects me to my partner. So that was kind of an amazing thing that it happened to be that. If I'd known that at the time, I don't know if I would have done something different, but I just imagined feeling awoken by music, because for me, music is basically one of the most important things in my life. So yeah, it's kind of it's very cool.
That is really cool, because that you have such a visceral, like an emotional reaction to hearing that song in that scene. So now knowing that, like, I'm even more impressed with your acting, that you are listening to nothing, because it really looks like you're so like moved and intrigued by that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I read, or maybe saw in an interview, that someone asked you your fashion advice and you said never throw anything away. So I was curious if, like, I don't know if you can tell, and it's cleaned up here, but I'm kind of like a maximalist hoarder. I'm like, more is more. Are you? So, okay, cool. So do you actually follow that advice, or what was kind of behind that?
I think an interesting thing that I've had to learn to adapt into is that when you live with someone, you have to make space for someone in your life, and that includes a wardrobe. And that was kind of quite a devastating moment to realize. But I mean, what I do all the time, my partner's younger sister, she's a brilliant artist. And so what she'll do is I'll give her a bunch of the clothes, and she sort of adapts them, uses them, makes them into something else, or just kind of updates them, upcycles everything, and just creates new pieces with them, which is pretty cool. I think it's always great never to throw something away. If you can give it away or pass it on. I do that a lot with books as well. But I get very attached to certain ones that I really can't let go of. But then when you move house and you realize how many boxes and how many really heavy boxes of books. It's quite shocking.
Yeah. Someone once gave me advice to not do the thing that you love for work because you'll end up not loving it anymore because it becomes a job. And now I realize that's really crappy advice. Like, no one should listen to that. You should do what you love. So I'm wondering if anyone has ever given you some really bad advice or really good.
A director I worked with on my first job just told me, you don't have to show anything. You just feel it and trust that the camera will see it. And I think that's great advice. I've always followed that. Bad advice, less so.
That's good. You'd rather get good advice than bad advice. There's a scene, I don't want to give too much away because it's a little bit later, but you're playing racquetball in the future. I don't know. That's like the coolest, most intense scene. And I was wondering how fun it was to shoot that. And that scene was just so different than the rest of the show to me.
Totally. It's also when Nina she's no longer taking soma. She's experimenting with going without it, which is a bit like meeting someone in our real life and them experimenting with taking really hardcore drugs that seriously affect your mood and your ability to be calm or something. And that's kind of where she's at. So she's really raw in that scene. She's very cruel in that scene. But I loved being able to feel like I could play real tennis. In fact, the ball was put in post. So I remember texting a friend of mine when we went to school together and we were both really bad at tennis. Like we did it once for like one term and I was like, this is rubbish. I was like, I'm really good at fake tennis. And I got a really good workout from it. So if anyone ever just thinks I can't play tennis, just play fake tennis and you're running for the ball and it just feels great.
Fake tennis on my list. During this like weird quarantine that we've all kind of been in our houses a lot more than usual, and our routines have been changed so much, I read something that somebody said, like, give yourself joy triggers, like things that trigger joy for you, to fill like the gap of like what would be a normal life. So I've been ordering flowers and getting like bouquets sent to my house. Like you can see one there, like weekly, because it makes me like happy. Is there anything that you've been doing to just trigger like joy in this weird time for you?
Physicality, using my body. I'm very active as a person. I really enjoy it. It makes me feel good to move my body. And one thing that I do a lot when I'm filming is I get back and I put headphones in and I just blast music and dance around like I'm at a rave for a good hour. And I do that here all the time. The minute no one's in the house, I'm just like, woo! And it makes me feel really happy. It also reminds me of going out with my friends and enjoying doing things like that, which I really miss. So I've been doing a good amount of that. That's great. And also painting a lot.
What kind of painting do you do? Like figures or abstract? What's going on?
I do a lot of, it's mostly like figurative. I do a lot of sort of illustration. I sort of make up people and draw them. So I do that a lot. And but now I'm letting myself get a bit more messy and going back into oil painting, which is really fun.
That does seem really fun. I have a small daughter, so we've experimented with watercolors is where we're at now. So not quite at your level.
That's great.
Yeah. I've also read that you consider yourself to be a hopeless romantic, perhaps. I need some tips because I'm not very romantic in my life with my husband. So is there any little things that you feel like, anyone should be doing to show people that they care?
I think sometimes it's quite annoying if you're really, really romantic and your partner is less so, because you think, why haven't you turned up at my doorstep and like done this ridiculous thing? That's nuts. I'm at work. But you stop watching rom-coms. So there is a part of that I think is really healthy. But one thing that I think is completely wonderful and I will never stop doing, and that I love when it happens to me too, is receiving letters. It's just wonderful getting something through the post that isn't a bill, and that someone took the time to do, even if on the inside is just the silliest message.
I love that. One last random question. What is the last purchase you made with cash? So not a credit card.
A bike lock. I paid for a bike lock with cash to the point at which I didn't have enough. And the guy just said, you know, do you live locally? I said, yes. And he was like, bring me the other $5 another time. So I went in today and gave him the rest of the change that I owed him, it felt quaint.
That's wonderful. What a great note to end on that. Well, this was great. And like I said, the show was wonderful. You are wonderful. So thank you so much for the time.
Thanks so much, Audrey.
Yeah. Have a great day.
Hi, Audrey.
Hi, Harry. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. First question about the show is going to be a little bit fashion related, which might seem weird, but your character, Bernard Marx, Alpha Plus, wears a ton of beige turtlenecks. How do you feel about this fashion choice for him?
It takes a real man to pull off a beige polo neck, I've always said. I didn't think I was that man, but Bernard just might be. His changing costume definitely reflects his changing kind of status and state of mind. And especially when we start going to all the parties in New London, and to see what that does to his dress and the different themes, what he does with that style, and also who he copies, I think is very interesting.
I agree. There's a scene also where you're going to talk to your boss and you're like amping yourself up and you're giving your monologue and you're like, I can do this. I want to be so good at my job.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a point in your life that you've had to do that for yourself, or are you just so confident that you don't need
Every
to?
audition. Yeah. Come on. That's your job. The good thing about acting is that at some point the curtain goes up or the camera starts rolling. So you have to just get on and do it.
Yeah. So speaking of different worlds, tell me how New London and actual London compare. Are there any similarities or vast differences between the real place and the show place?
To achieve universal happiness, New Londoners live in the following way, different to us. The main thing is that no one is born of another person. There are no families. Everyone's born in a lab, and you're categorized alpha, beta, gamma, delta, or epsilon. And genetic material is inserted or extracted to kind of give you that level of, I'm not sure, intelligence or how that works exactly, but that's your level and you love that level and that's all you want to do. And the idea of people questioning things or being anxious or different or lonely doesn't really exist anymore.
Obviously, I'm sure everyone asks you about your great-great-great-grandfather, Charles Dickens, so I'm not going to talk about that. But I did read that you narrated an audiobook for George R.R. Martin, and that you possibly are interested in writing a book yourself. I know you're a big reader. Is there any truth to that, wanting to be a writer?
I hadn't read Brave New World when I got the part, to be honest, but I have read that now. I did do an audiobook. I did a prequel to Game of Thrones called The Tales of Dunk and Egg, which I loved, but man, there was like hundreds of characters. And so I enjoy reading. Reading's kind of how I got into acting. I was good at reading as a kid and I could hear it in my head and I could say it out loud. And that's just what got me into it. That got me my first part in a school play, I think, and it went from there.
So all of those books behind you, have you read all of those books? Are these all yours?
These aren't even mine.
Oh, fake book setup?
Yeah, this is a wallpaper, actually.
Wow.
But most of them absolutely not read, for sure.
It's a good Zoom background in these weird times.
Yeah.
So your name, actually, Harry, is pretty popular these days. We have Harry Styles, we have Prince Harry.
Sure.
Growing up, did you like your name? How did you feel about the name Harry as a kid?
I didn't love it, actually. I'd never been able to put my finger on it. I think when I was born, it was one of those names that no one was called Harry, and then everyone had the same idea at the same time, a little bit. So I found there was quite a lot of Harrys. I also had to think that there was a lot of Harrys at my school who were actually Henrys.
Oh.
I was like, it's the same length. Why do you just stick with your own name? So people would say, oh, my name's Harry. I'd be like, when I was like 7, I'd be like, are you Harry? You're Henry. And they'd be like, I'm Henry. And I'm like, I'm not real Harry. So I was quite proud that I was christened Harry. I clung to that for quite a long time. That's
so funny. Yeah, that's a weird nickname to pull from an actual name. Yeah. I'm just curious. Names have always been interesting to me. Since my name's Audrey, I didn't grow up with any other Audreys in school. As I grew up, there was a couple out in the wild, and I would hear my name sometimes and be like, who knows me? Like, that has to be me.
You're doing every now and again hear someone go like, hey, in the street, like telling their kid off or something, and your heart goes, you feel it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was great chatting with you. I really did enjoy the show, and
Thank you.
you're wonderful.
Yeah. Cheers.
Take care. Hi, Alden. Thank you for hanging out with me.
Hi.
I had the opportunity to watch the first 6 episodes of Brave New World, which were amazing. I mean, first, beautiful. Such an interesting story. Obviously, it's been a book and it's been TV series, and now we have this version. So did you do research before this, or did you just jump right in and decide to go in?
Yeah, it was really great to read the book, and so brilliant that he was thinking about the ways that society might evolve so long ago that ended up feeling incredibly relevant to the moment we're in.
Yeah. Obviously, when you're in the Savage Lands, music seems to be like a big part of your life. And in one of, I think it's maybe in the closing credits in one of the episodes, Radiohead's Fake Plastic Trees is playing, and later on there's a Neil Young song, Car Seat Headrest. Like, the music in this show is not what I was expecting it to be, and it's so cool.
Yeah, me too. And we didn't really know exactly what those songs were going to be when we were shooting, but we did play some music on set for certain scenes, and that's really a credit to David Weiner, the showrunner, who really brought all that music.
That's awesome. When you, not to spoil anything, but you eventually get in an elevator and you seem to be very freaked out by the elevator. And I was wondering, in real life, do you have any like phobias or things that you would just really like to avoid doing or seeing or being?
I've never had problems with elevators. I'm okay on heights. I used to be sort of a hypochondriac, which is not a great time to be one right now. So probably that. Yeah, probably that. Just being like, oh, this must be something bad.
Right. Speaking of the weird time that we're in now, there's definitely a lot going on and everyone's all kind of thrown off of their normalcy. Like, what is bringing you happiness? Little or big thing?
One is in my personal life. I've gotten to kind of spend time connecting with people that I wouldn't necessarily have Zoomed with before, like in regular life. And I've been doing a pretty consistent like game night over Zoom with a bunch of friends of mine pretty much the entire time. And then also that for all the, while there obviously are people's lives are being completely upended, I think there's also a way in which it's a moment of reflection to kind of sit back and say like, well, if this is just it, how do I want to live? What matters to me?
Yeah. Going back to the games you're playing with your friends, is it the same game every time, or are you guys playing all different games?
Combination of different games, yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite?
Maybe Mafia. There's a game called the Book Game that's pretty great. Mafia, Codenames.
Oh, I love Codenames. Have you played the picture edition or just the word one?
The word one.
So if you want to up your game a little bit, there's a picture version that's really hard, but super fun. I saw in an interview before that when you were a kid, maybe you went to, this is very random, you went to a screening of a movie and expected it to maybe be like something more glamorous than it was, and you brought like an autograph book as a kid. And I remember having an autograph book, like going to Disneyland and being like, I'm gonna get Mickey's autograph.
Yeah.
In this autograph book, like, what was the biggest autograph you had?
I mean, I got Shaquille O'Neal's autograph, which felt like a really big deal. That was very exciting. I have a Jenna Rollins autograph on like a piece of artwork of John Cassavetes' movies that I like a lot.
That's cool.
That's more my adult life nerdiness.
You sit in these all day and people are asking you a million questions. Is there ever a question that you thought you would get that like no one has asked you yet?
Wow, that's a great question.
Oh, good.
No, I have a not fun answer, but it's true. I appreciate when there's questions about charity. I've been working with United Way for the last couple of years on the homelessness front and just bringing more awareness to the fact that homelessness is a fixable problem and it's a crisis in the country and specifically in LA, especially, that I think we will look back on and be pretty ashamed of, because a lot of these people are, they're our neighbors and they're living pretty difficult lives, especially right now. So United Way, and if you go to the website of United Way, there's a 10 ways you can help during the pandemic page, and
Okay.
things you can do from home. So
That's awesome. Well, that's a great note to end on. So thank you for sharing that. And best of luck with the show. I really, really enjoyed it, and you're phenomenal.
thanks so much. Nice
Take care.
Welcome to New London.
You are an essential part of a perfect social body. Everybody in their place. Everybody happy now.
Virus enters a cell. That's how it begins.
I've been watching you people. You gotta ask yourself, if this place is so perfect, why is it upside down?